Every single day, millions of people walk into a fast food restaurant believing they're making a simple decision, choosing what to eat. But what if that decision was never just about food? Because behind every burger, every order, every drive-thru, and every familiar logo, there's a system that has been quietly perfected for decades. A system designed to make millions of people come back, over and over again. Not because someone forces them to, but because everything around the experience has been carefully engineered. The smell, the colors, the speed, the layout. Even the way your brain begins to recognize that place as something familiar long before you're actually hungry. Most people believe fast food became successful because it tastes good. But if taste were the only reason, thousands of restaurants around the world would have achieved exactly the same thing. They didn't. Something much bigger happened. For decades, some of the world's largest corporations have combined psychology, engineering, architecture, marketing, and behavioral science to answer a single question. How do you make someone come back again and again without convincing them every single time? Food is only the visible part of that system. The real product is hidden inside decisions most people never notice. To understand how a simple meal became one of the most efficient consumption machines ever created, we need to go back to the moment someone realized the real business would never be selling burgers. It would be building a system that could make the entire world come back. Most people only see the products. We investigate the hidden systems behind them. If you're curious about the invisible forces shaping everyday life, subscribe and join us every week. For centuries, restaurants had one simple purpose: serve food. If the food was good, people came back. If it wasn't, they went somewhere else. It was that simple. Every restaurant worked differently. Every cook had their own technique. Every customer had a slightly different experience. Nothing was exactly the same. Until one question changed everything. Instead of asking, "How do we make a better hamburger?" someone asked, "How do we make a restaurant work like a machine?" That single question transformed the entire industry. The kitchen stopped revolving around the cook. It started revolving around the process. Every movement was measured. Every station was planned. Every second had to produce maximum efficiency. For the first time, the goal was no longer just making food. It was producing exactly the same experience, every day, every hour, every customer. That idea caught the attention of a milkshake machine salesman named Ray Kroc. While most people saw an incredibly efficient restaurant, he saw something much bigger: a system. Because if one restaurant could operate this way, then hundreds could. Thousands. The same burger, the same fries, the same waiting time, the same experience, no matter where you were. The customer would always know exactly what to expect. But another machine was growing at the same time, one that almost nobody noticed. While millions of people saw new restaurants opening across the country, the company was quietly buying the land beneath them. Instead of simply selling food, it controlled the real estate, the buildings, the franchise agreements, the expansion itself. The burger attracted customers. The system created wealth. Fast food had stopped being a restaurant business. It had become a growth machine. Yet even the most efficient machine still had one problem. It could produce burgers. It could open new locations. It could generate enormous profits. But it still couldn't answer the most important question of all. How do you make millions of people want to come back for the rest of their lives? And that's exactly where the next chapter begins. The system Ray Kroc helped build was incredibly efficient. It could produce the same meal in thousands of locations. It could expand faster than almost any restaurant chain in history. It could generate enormous profits. But none of that mattered if people only visited once. The machine didn't just need customers. It needed returning customers. Again, and again, and again. That's when fast food stopped focusing only on what happened inside the kitchen. It started studying what happened inside the human brain, because getting someone through the door is expensive. Getting them to come back is where the real money begins. And that changes everything. Today, every part of the fast food experience is carefully designed long before the first bite. Walk into almost any major chain and you'll notice something interesting. Bright colors, large menu boards, simple choices, fast service, predictable layouts. Nothing feels random, because it isn't. The goal isn't simply to make ordering easier, it's to remove friction. The less you have to think, the faster you decide. The faster you decide, the less likely you are to question the purchase. But the environment is only part of the equation. The food itself is engineered to be remarkably consistent, not just from one visit to the next, but from one country to another. Whether you're in New York, Tokyo, London, or São Paulo, the experience feels familiar. That familiarity is incredibly powerful. Our brains are wired to trust what they recognize. Every identical burger, every identical French fry, every identical logo reinforces that sense of certainty. You're no longer choosing a restaurant. You're repeating a memory. And repetition changes behavior. The more often an experience is repeated, the less conscious the decision becomes. Eventually, it starts feeling automatic. One of the most effective ways to accelerate that process begins long before adulthood. It begins in childhood. For decades, fast food companies invested heavily in creating emotional connections with children. Colorful characters, collectible toys, birthday parties, games, movies, happy memories. The meal wasn't simply being advertised. An entire emotional experience was, and research suggests those experiences matter far more than many people realize. Studies have shown that just 5 minutes of exposure to fast food advertising can significantly increase how much children eat afterward, not next week, not tomorrow, the very same day. The advertisement doesn't merely create awareness, it changes behavior. That is why public health organizations around the world continue to warn about children's exposure to food marketing. Because the objective isn't simply to sell today's meal, it's to shape tomorrow's habits. The earlier a brand becomes familiar, the easier it becomes to remain familiar. For years, sometimes decades. When you combine childhood familiarity, predictable environments, consistent products, fast service, strategic locations, and powerful marketing, you no longer have a restaurant, you have an ecosystem. Every part supports every other part. The food attracts attention, the environment encourages speed, the marketing creates familiarity, the real estate guarantees visibility. The system feeds itself. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of all. Most people believe they return because they enjoy the food, but enjoyment is only one small piece of a much larger machine. The real achievement of fast food wasn't creating better hamburgers, it was creating one of the most effective systems for building lifelong habits ever designed. And once you begin to see that system, it's almost impossible to stop noticing it. For decades, we've been told that fast food became one of the biggest industries on earth because it offered something simple: cheap meals, fast service, convenience. But after looking behind the curtain, that explanation no longer feels complete. What emerged wasn't simply a chain of restaurants, it was a system capable of controlling real estate, standardizing operations, engineering familiar experiences, and quietly encouraging millions of people to return without ever having to convince them from scratch. That's why the real product was never just the burger. The burger opens the door. The system brings you back. And when that system reaches someone at an early age, it isn't only selling lunch, it's building familiarity, routine, memory, eventually, habit. This conversation isn't really about hamburgers, or French fries, or even fast food itself. It's about understanding how everyday choices can be shaped by invisible systems operating quietly in the background. The next time you walk into a fast food restaurant, you may still order exactly the same meal. But one thing will probably be different. You won't just see a restaurant, you'll see a carefully engineered system designed to make millions of people follow the exact same path every single day. So maybe the most important question was never, what are we eating? Maybe it's this: how many of our everyday choices are truly our own? If this investigation changed the way you see fast food, let me know in the comments. What surprised you the most?